tour of Just for Fun has now finished. We had 22 entries with 24 members voting. And again I'm impressed by your creativity and the extent to which some of you are going. Including a 200 plus exposure by John Denny that took over 2.5 hours. By Steve Hess. Taken on Canon M6 MK2 with a Canon 11 to 22mm lens at 11mm and f11. Post-processing in Infinity Photo brightened shadows, reduced highlights, increased contrast, clarity, exposure and detail refinement in the developer persona. Reduced lens distortion in photo persona. Garden Colors. By Peter Lorenz. Should have been called Pink Moon. This was shot on April the 7th and was an attempt to catch an image of April's full pink moon. This full moon, which is a super moon, and the first full moon of spring and the paschal full moon, was visible after sunset and reached peak illumination at 10:35 p.m. Before you get your hopes up, this super pink moon won't actually look super pink, or any hue of pink. Really, it was its usual golden color near the horizon and fade to a bright white as it glided overhead. But Dad made the image monochrome. So why is it called the Pink Moon? Although we wish this name had to do with the color of the moon, the reality is not quite as mystical or inspiring. In truth, April's full moon often corresponded with the early springtime blooms of a certain wildflower native to eastern North America, Phlox subulata, commonly called creeping phlox or moss phlox, which also went by the name moss pink. I've Got My Beady Eye on You. By Paul Steels. I did have another image of apple blossom. But, even though it's pretty, it would probably only get the odd vote. I decided that I would put this pigeon in as it's different. And true to form as last week, it probably won't get any votes either. I have a reputation to uphold. To take the image, I put my camera in a shoebox with a hole for the lens and put it on the grass. Then I put down some sunflower seeds and waited for the pigeon to get in the right position. It took a long time for it to happen as the pigeon was clearly wary of the box. I had put the camera on continuous shooting and fired the shutter. Initially this startled the pigeon, but after another few hours it seemed to get used to it. Then all I had to do was choose an image, crop it and make a few adjustments. Waiting for Food. By Martin Hall. More or less as it came out of camera, only erased some spots and gave it a touch of hyperdynamic range. A Burst of Spring. By Alan Cook. Hyacinth Hoets. By Gary Wood. More commonly known as Bluebells. Was quite a challenge to get the shade of blue correct. Fallen Blossom. By John Smith. He has a red water butt and he noticed some water in it with leaves and blossom floating in it. So he gathered some more leaves etc. and then just took the shot initially on auto first just to try it. Then used manual settings f5.6, 1/125th second ISO 400. In Photoshop he just did some adjustments to highlights and shadows. Then in Elements he selected a red brush and removed the dirty marks to the side of the water butt. Dandelion Seeds. By Debbie Lowe. Skies. By John Denny. An attempt to capture some meteors. I got at least 3, along with several aeroplanes. This was compiled from 225 by 20 second images, f4 at 12mm on a Nikon D200, 400 ISO. I had to allow a 10-second interval between each shot to prevent the camera's sensor from overheating and switching off the camera. Total time duration was 2.5 hours from 10:15 at night until 1:45 in the morning. The images were overlaid using StarStack, which is a free program. Phil the Pheasant. By Steve Begson. The pheasant is a regular visitor to my garden during the months I put out wild bird seed. He is not fazed by me standing in the garden a few feet away taking photographs, but it's still difficult to get a steady shot because he never stops pecking at the seed. Taken on a Canon 6D Mk2 with Canon 100 to 400mm lens at 300mm, f4.5, 1/500th of a second. Processed in Adobe Lightroom. Razor sharp, great depth of field and very colorful. Only get pigeons and magpies in our garden. House Sparrow. By Alan Sims. Just cropped and adjusted color. Rhododendron. By Ian Waite. Taken on his phone. He has just discovered the Pro mode on the camera and the selective focus feature that allows him to choose which parts are in focus after the shot has been taken. Just Out of the Pot. By Alan Wardroper. I cut the bottom of a plant pot, wet the inside and rubbed it in some loose soil to get some to stick to it. I then put the camera facing up and placed the plant pot on top of the lens, and took the shots with a remote. Robin. By Patricia Rudin. Water droplets on a Aubrietia. By Margaret Waterson. I took this photo with an 80mm macro lens on an Fuji X-T3 camera. It hasn't rained lately, so I sprinkled some water onto the Aubrietia plant and concentrated the focus area on the center of the flower. The droplet magnified the center stamens of the plant to get this effect. These flowers are tiny, just about fingernail size. All I did in Photoshop was cropping, added vibrance, and some bits of cloning out bright spots on the foliage surrounding the flower. Asa. By Ken. Just a vignette round the edge and a touch of sharpening. Stand Still. By Andy Freeman. Just messing with a lens ball and using my son as a stand. Final image has just had a 2-minute tweak in Snapseed, bit of a crop, sharpened a bit and increased the warmth. Tried this with my own globe and realize how difficult it is to achieve such an easy looking image. Stand Still. By Andy Freeman. Just messing with a lens ball and using my son as a stand. Final image has just had a 2-minute tweak in Snapseed, bit of a crop, sharpened a bit and increased the warmth. Tried this with my own globe and realize how difficult it is to achieve such an easy looking image. B. By Isabel. Just a vignette round the edge and a touch of sharpening. Ren. Chantal Cooper. Amazing clarity and well caught on branches that don't detract from the image by going behind the subject. These are an abridged version of the many comments received from the members, and not always the views and thoughts of the management. Also note when it says I, it don't mean always mean me. First, some covering comments from a couple of members generally thought that there was too much processing going on. Street is all about capturing what is happening, so making HDR skies, color popping and vignettes do not make good street images, nor do just pictures of streets. Need to look at the masters to understand what street is all about. Took ages to add comments, so probably wrote too much. I've taken more street photos than anything else over the years and use criteria from a number of sources and publications when taking my own pictures and today when marking our competition, so hope I haven't been too critical. Some things I look for include a moment in time which tells a story, a strong focal point, a main subject which pops out of the background. Only crop to improve visual balance but keep original aspect ratio or to remove unwanted element. Add more contrast or clarity to increase wow factor. Sometimes more impact in color, so don't convert to mono for the sake of it. Needs to evoke emotion. Shouldn't be pictures of random strangers or street scenes with very little happening. Close-ups will be considered as street portraits and only loosely fit into a street photography category. Posed or set up pictures where permission is asked is not really street. People photographed from the back, the disabled, beggars, homeless and street performers are easy to take and not considered good street photography. So not much to think about really. Finished 56th, scored 14.86. Image 8. Cross Buskers. By Dave Varnum. Too busy. Lots going on. 3 separate groups of people. Main subjects are lost in the scene and because of the bright sunlight are dark due to high contrast. Perhaps crop to left of cross and slightly more space on right would focus attention on buskers. You need to leave one of the other groups to show why the buskers are cross. The 2 ladies sitting on the bench more interested in their phones are probably the better set to leave, as they give a reason for the buskers to be cross. Lighten buskers as they're quite dark. Finished 55th, scored 14.95. Image 52. Rebel Underfoot. By John Denny. Different. Well seen, with the cover 90 degree out of alignment. Is the suggestion that the incongruity of the cobble angles is rebellious. Image made me smile and look further into the image, good use of black and white. A bit literal but intriguing, although a little plain and not what I'd call street photography. More a patterns image. Finished 53rd, scored 15. Image 24. Primary colors in lockdown. By John Denny. Reflects the moment, good color but disjointed, thus little impact. Color idea good but without title means nothing, especially out of context with current situation. Just a picture of an empty street without title, it is meaningless. A lazy picture, there are many options to make it better. Also 53rd, scored 15. Image 3. Center of Attraction. By Alan Cook. Generally view as it needed cropping both from the left and a little from right to remove the waste bin. Or even just cropping to just the right hand half of the image would be much more effective. Pity you can't no see the girl's face, as this is the main focal point but it's covered by her hair. Should have waited for a better shot. Finished 52nd, scored 15.32. Image 31. Old Bangers. By Alan Cook. Has a point of interest and converted to mono. Title says it all, not technically brilliant. Writing and spots very off-putting, and where are they going? Where is the story or something to make you think? Spoiled by lettering bottom right. Should be cloned out or cropped. Whites look to be clipped and the push the button device has a hot spot on the corner. Sign in corner too prominent, a bit messy due to spots and the crossing panel. Too fast a shutter speed as the spokes are sharp. Obviously a shot taken quickly, so meeting the essence of street photography. Finished 51st, scored 15.33. Image 39. Okay for some. By Isabel Chesterman. A bit miserable, subtle message. Too much external info. Crop down to 3 main characters and highlight figures slightly against drab grey background. A little messy. Another sad picture of a homeless person but not very good, needs a lot of work on exposure and main point of focus to improve. Finished 50th, scored 15.52. Image 13. Begging in Berlin. By Roger Leck. Well spotted picture next to the poster but they don't seem that needy. Are these a couple of jokers asking for dog food, weed and beer, written in English in Berlin really? And where's the dog? Needs some dodging and burning to improve and perhaps a lesser crop. Too many distractions on the edges, parts of people and objects giving a cluttered feel. Would be a much better composition if the picture was taken from more in front, which would help remove distractions like the feet in top left, large box and bike with writing, which all detracts from main subjects. Also then the shallow depth of field, both characters would be in the same plane of focus. Finished 49th, scored 15.68. Image 37. I Have Got Legs. By Martin Hall. If only there had been someone looking or showing someone would have made much more impact. Well spotted but spoiled by people top right and bin top left. The crop is a bit tight, needs straightening, more reenactment than street. Probably snapped at 1940 WW2 weekend at the GCR, but not very interesting I'm afraid. Finished 48th, scored 15.95. Image 48. Grand Central. By Debbie Lowe. Looks good in mono. Good light. Captures the daily commute. Busy image, but that's what the subject is. Snapshot of a moment but no central figures of interest, more a reflection of Grand Central as a venue. Needed to wait for the right moment to take the shot or a different perspective from the balcony. What's the story here? Finished joint 45th, scored 16.05. Image 46. Waiting to Start Work. By Loz Waterson. Captures an individual but of no real interest to an audience as no context. Subject is out of focus but wall is sharp. Needs more in the background. Image 41. Nighttime in Valencia. By Roger Leck. Nice evening shot, light handled well, but shame about the color balance. Not enough interest conveyed in what couple are doing, where they're going, and could have been taken when subjects were less central. It's not really telling me a story. Image 36. Good Old Days. By Dave Varnum. Intriguing. This has got me thinking. What are they queuing up for? And what is central point of photo? Possibly a better title is Oh No, Have You Seen the Queue? It's not a really old photo as the car registration number gives it away, so perhaps the author is just referring to before social distancing. Maybe a bit too much sky would make good letterbox image. Brighton subject. Mono and wow could be improved by upping clarity and dodging and burning. Poor comp. Too much sky and floor. Needs straightening. Image 32. Finished 44th, scored 16.1. Vegetable stall holder, Vietnam. By Jeff Whitelocks. Nice natural portrait, good color. Photographer has used flash, which has highlighted the subject. Put it's more an environmental portrait, not really a street photo. Finished 43rd, scored 16.19. Image 17. Just the Ticket. By Alan Wardroper. Tells a story, the warden is sharp. But poor composition, needed a wider shot to get more of the cars in and maybe his legs as well. There are some distractions. Doesn't engage the audience or create empathy with protagonist. As it is, it's more an environmental portrait. Really it needs more in the scene, like a person watching the traffic warden. Or a Ferrari getting a ticket to make it work to be a moment in time. Finished 42nd, scored 16.27. Image 5. Corona Crescent. By Daniel Wood. Good angle of view taken at a low level, good depth of field, sharp throughout, would have been better with some dodge and burn. Some distracting elements though, like the sign at the top. Title makes sense in current climate, but image holds no central interest or theme other than contextualized title. Could be a Sunday morning shop or just a quiet time of the day if it wasn't for the title. Needs a shop window sticker in the photo to indicate why it's not a normal day. This is photography of a street, not street photography. The viewer would need to know the background to understand the picture. Finished 41st, scored 16.29. Image 19. Crazy Cyclist. By John Langham. Cycling down South Bank in Melbourne. Good image, but would have liked to see more of the bike. As it doesn't tell a story other than someone trying to get attention. Contrasting opinions in that some thought it was only sharp area is body whilst others said depth of field good. An amusing picture, but again needs to be in a wider scene, otherwise ends up more portrait than street, as he looks like he is stationary and posing for the photo. Finished 39th, scored 16.68. Image 9. Husky Power. By Martin Hall. Novel subject. The dogs are caught well and looking at camera, which is good. Good light, decent composition, but possibly improved if you could see where had come from or going to. I.e. put their location into more context. Some however thought it was a snapshot and not sure whether it's a street photo. Also is suffering from a bad case of tone mapping, as colors are oversaturated and it been over sharpened. Needs leveling up and some dodging and burning. Finished 38th, scored 16.76. Image 35. Late for rehearsal. By Andy Freeman. The shot was taken in Castle Square in Leicester. It was just a single shot as the cyclist went past. He seemed to be in a bit of a hurry, and he had a violin case, hence the name. Regarding editing, I just use Snapseed on the iPad. This has had a good crop, switched to portrait and made black and white. Plus I took out the window in the top right and reverted it to bricks, as keeping part of the window looked odd, and extending the crop to include all of it didn't seem so effective. This may be the start of me selling my soul to photo editing software. Well caught moment, lots of potential for subject, but needs a bit more of conceptual background. Makes you wonder why is he late. Image fits the title, but really it's just a guy riding a bike and it's the title that makes the image. Contrast needs upping to improve mono midtones. Backs of people aren't good. Try a lower angle to give a more dramatic image, or a square crop to get rid of the signage. Finished 37th, scored 16.71. Image 33. Street Art. By Daniel Wood. Taken on a Samsung S10 f2.2, 1/33 of a second, exposure 180mm. Good subject, colorful nighttime shot, interesting but needs different angle and people either silhouetting or lightening. Crop right. Confusing image, busy, too many distractions, and is soft throughout. Good effect with the lighting, well caught. The figure front left is slightly distracting. Crop right hand side a little and clone out tower clock in background. Finished joint 34th, scored 17. Image 23. Healthy Living. By Rob Jones. I like it. Envious, been waiting to capture this myself. Good depth of field. Natural and topical. Not really dramatic enough to suggest either healthy or unhealthy living. Nothing to make you interested in character. Bit more street needed. More portrait than street. Would be a better composition to include more of scene and more of the smoke drifting away, and perhaps in mono. Sarcastic title. Perhaps more could have been made of the amount of vapor that these devices produce. Image 15. Flatiron, New York. By Phil Malin. A great photo of the architecture. Good composition, giving a commanding view of the building with strong colors and sharpness where needed, and nice sky. Some felt it had a good balance of building, people and sky, whilst others that the people appeared incidental with little relationship to the building. And therefore is this perhaps a record shot of an iconic building rather than a moment in time. More architectural or travel photo rather than a street image. Image 4. Resident Langer Township. By Jeff Whitelocks. Well balanced, colors work well, good composition, head sits between the line of the top of the door and the stair rail, great portrait, but is it street? Several thought it was overpowered by the white card, as this was quite dominant, but two differing views on how to solve it. One was to see wider setting, thus showing the environment where this proud man was standing and making the white card smaller in the image. Another said bottom half distracting crop. And a third was just to darken it. Several thought THW vignette spoils it, making it a little dark in the corners, whilst another view was that there was no need to vignette on street photography. Image 51. Finished 33rd, scored 17.24. V for Vain. By Rob Jones. A moment captured taking a selfie, probably one of many they took that day. A popular Eastern tradition to pose with V, but this is not the most interesting and phone not immediately obvious. Tight crop, would benefit from a little dodging and burning. Maybe crop the part face of the bloke off at the right. Finished 32nd, scored 17.27. Image 56. With Me Mates. By Robin Assel. True moment in time. Clearly something made one guy laugh and the one on the left looks bemused by it. Nice candid group shot and the magic 3 plus the dog. Dog is the most interesting subject, but the three characters don't seem to gel or intermix, and unfortunately Busker is blurred, and is he yawning, singing or shouting? Works with tight crop and the dog. Perhaps crop out edge of W on window or even the S to leave men. Finished 31st, scored 17.48. Image 11. Leading the Parade. By Isabel Chesterman. Eye-catching, great colors, but is it the best of compositions because the crowd in the background have already been walked past, so they're not looking at this person, instead they're looking at next part of the parade. But we cannot see that as there is only this person and no other context. Possibly needs to have been taken a few seconds later to see less of the crowd and for the next person in parade to come into view. So we see more of the scene and a glimpse of what is behind the leader. This would enhance the image, as this is what the spectators are looking at. Face needs lightening, possibly with a spot of dodging and burning. Question though if this is really street or more event. Finished 30th, scored 17.52. Image 49. OAP Barrow. By Gary Wood. The image captures the inventiveness of the older generation. Nicely captured and emphasized by monochroming the background. Good color popping but too cropped. If she had been in a fairly empty street or wider angle with context would possibly be more interesting. Creative use of partial color. Is this a portrait? Cropped too tight, other person a distraction, probably better in full mono. Good. No need for the selective black and white. Finished 29th, scored 17.68. Image 28. Reflections. By Robin Astle. The composition of this is done well, there are several interactions going on. Technically good, nice idea and a creative image, but no outstanding color or subject, and seems rather busy and cluttered. Which leads many to find it confusing. Some even thought it was multiple exposure, which isn't street photography. Also, would it be better if the man was positioned to right of Tower Bridge? Finished joint 27th, scored 17.71. Image 18. Buskers in Vienna. By Los Waterson. Great subject, slightly funny, gave me a smile but not engaging. Needs some context as it raises several questions like: what were they looking at? Why do they have horses' heads on? Is there a story there? Are they perhaps well known? If you could have seen what they were looking at, it would have increased the interest as a street photo. Composition and lack of processing lets it down. Not really what I'd call street photography, a snap of buskers in Vienna. Image 7. Just Walk On By. By Andy Freeman. It was taken in Belfast earlier this year. The busker is playing what I believe is a straw violin. It has strings but no sound box, with a horn instead. He didn't really get much attention, and the girl in shot gave him no eye contact at all. I like the fact that he just caught sight of the camera as the shot was taken. I also liked the poster behind him with the legs mimicking what was going on in front of him. Processing wise, nothing special with the edit, just a slight crop, sharpen and shift to black and white. Good social commentary, a message of the social divide, facial expressions on both work well. Girl with eyes closed looks like she's trying to ignore him. Great image, good use of black and white, although could do with some dodging and burning and more contrast to make it pop. Great match of the walking legs in the advertisement to the subject, but possibly moving to the right slightly and allowing the girl to enter frame more would then show both poster and walker. But the busker is a bit blurred, which I think is unintentional. Would have been better if the walker has motion blur. Image 6. Finished 26th, scored 17.81. Our Playground. By Margaret Waterson. Interesting to see this venue used by little children. Usually quite a noisy bustling area. Subjects are well placed but are lost in the scene, making it appear to be more about the street art. The kids should have been more prominent. Possibly crop bottom to draw attention to the children more. Or as it's a bit busy, crop to just the 3 kids on scooters. Or is it the wrong angle of view? Could a lower angle make for a stronger image? Image has a lot of noise due to the low lighting conditions and need to freeze the action. Nice colors but oversaturated, could do with some dodging and burning. Finished 25th, scored 18. Image 29. I don't want to talk about it. By Peter Lawrence. Amusing, well-timed photo with the dog walking through the scene. Good capture, well-caught subject, colorful. Although a little busy at the back. People and the dog looking miserable and not communicating. Whose dog is it? Why is it just walking into the scene? Image is soft. Finished joint 22nd, scored 18.1. Image 53. Friends on Holiday. By John Smith. A nice bright image. The central subjects work well. They seem to be enjoying it. Slightly overexposed. Crop top and bottom and slightly enhanced colors to stand out against sandstone color of background. And image could have done with some dodge and burn, whites are a little clipped. A post-holiday snap, doesn't really work for me as street photography. Picture needs work to improve the blown highlights etc. Bright image, perhaps a bit too bright in places. Captured well. Again, low angle needed. Like the photographer in the shot. Image 16. A light bulb moment. By Ken Chesterman. A well-spotted and intriguing photo that would have been a great photo if it had been of a living person. Makes good use of black and white. Like the row of empty chairs. But possibly better taken from nearer to the floor. And possibly needs more in the scene, for example a person walking past or someone looking at the mannequin or mime artist. And as it's just a sculpture, it's not really capturing a moment. Image 2. Cathedral Wheelie. By James Bottrill. Good subject against a strong background. Nice contrast of cultures and attitudes. Suggests world-weary attitude of pedestrians at having their space invaded. Composition is getting there, 2 people looking at the title subject and also steps pointing toward him as well. Possibly sun rays look a little artificial. Could have lightened characters at the front as they're dark compared to the background. And reduced background contrast to make them pop. Others felt that it needed cropping to subject as it is a little busy with the 2 people behind, and felt the sky was distracting and image dominated by the cathedral, which although framed well has little relevance to the subject and takes the eye away from the kid doing a wheelie. Image 25. Finished 21st, scored 18.48. A Rainy Day. By John Smith. A well-spotted picture with the umbrella nicely matching the other colors. Rain and reflections add more interest and work well and give impact, but there is not anything to invoke interest in either the character or setting. If could have suggested a goal for person or reason. Needs crop to improve and less processing. A little bit of dodge and burn needed. Finished 20th, scored 18.57. Image 1. Catch Me If You Can. By Peter Lawrence. Definitely a moment in time. Full of action. Colorful. Makes you feel happy and remember childhood. It's a well-timed exposure and it's good to have the balloon man's face inside the bubble tells a story. Main issue is that the background is very busy and distracting. A smaller F number could have helped to blur background and made people stand out more. Or could have lightened characters at the front and reduced background contrast for same effect. But as it is, the subjects are confused with the background. It's also already been overprocessed for street. Including over-sharpened, and the tone mapping is too heavy. Don't know what's to the left, i.e. was it a better background, but a move to the left would have helped to decrease gap and angle between children and bubble blower. Alternatively, perhaps not crop as tight, add more of the original scene if possible so characters are not on the edge of the frame. Could also have tried a lower angle. Finished 19th, scored 18.62. Image 26. Delhi Street Shower. By Steve Pearce. Another world. Good story. Good moment in time, although I imagine it would have been a long moment. Ready-made street scene. If possible, take from other view, as impact would have been better if the main subject was looking at camera. Or at least one of them. A good street scene but poorly composed, cropped too tight on the bottom, cutting off hand and foot. Also on left hand side it needs a bit more street. Finished 18th, scored 18.67. Image 14. In Pursuit. By Paul Steens. This was taken outside New Street Station in Birmingham, looking up at the reflective surfaces on the building. So no one was aware that I was photographing them. I composed the image and waited for 2 or 3 people to be in the frame, leaving enough space around to crop it. A bit of cloning out of some aspects was done, then it was just a case of adjusting light and dark to get the desired effect. Different, clever idea, and love the angle and good use of reflections give a slightly sinister but a different perspective. The reflected bricks seem very swirly, etc., for something that appears to be straight and flat. Could have enhanced color to bring out contrast of red and blues against gray. Some felt it a bit confusing to look at having split reflective ceiling panels. Wondered about the presence of the diagonal line. I know it was really there, but it presents a physical barrier for the pursuer to cross. And thought this sort of picture works better with shadows. Finished 17th, scored 18.81. Image 47. The Market Trader. By John Langham. Great subject, well taken with good expression taken from a good low angle. Very nice environmental portrait, and probably not staged but rather static. Maybe taken a bit to the left to capture all of the tray. Finished 16th, scored 18.9. Image 21. Minding the Kid. By Gary Wood. Horrible social story but well composed. Gritty realism, good light, sharp. This looks a dangerous scene. I wouldn't have fancied being there. Has potential but a lot too implied only. No story, no point of interest or emotion, just 3 lads talking. I question this comment as I'm able to. Plus others have also disagreed. 3 lads drinking in a subway with a pushchair, how is there no story or point of interest? Can't see 2 of the faces or what's in pushchair. Mixed views on color, some said good color popping, others color distracting, and yet others that it's not street. Noticed the man on far right, I can't make out the top of his head properly, hence the lower tech score. Creative coloring, shame you only see half of the buggy. Not sure about part mono. I was out taking images for the graffiti round. There are lots under a bridge in Tamworth by the Snow Dome. Saw these 3 lads whilst I was the other side of the bridge. So walked up adjoining section and shot it from the hip as I came round corner, but they had seen me and put their hoods up as they didn't want to be identified. Had a chat with them, nice lads really, just girlfriend didn't want them hanging around flat, told them to take kid for a walk. Yes, there is a kid in pushchair. Finished 15th, scored 18.95. Image 34. The Artist's Environment. By Margaret Waterson. Good all-round image, very well taken and light handled well. Lots to grab attention, powerful image of a section of society. Perhaps more cropping will give it a little more interest, as the left side of the image has a flat wall blocking your eye from moving back into the image, and the artist is soft. Good subject, but it's more a street art picture or graffiti image. Finished joint 13th, scoring 19.05. Image 54. Elephant Approaching. By Steve Pearce. Great opportunity to get such an interesting and colorful shot. Conveys the bustling street and well captures India's chaotic roads and reflects the culture. Ideally would like to have missed motorbike out on left to emphasize elephant and bike more. Busy image but lots of interest and atmosphere. Over sharpened. But like the subjects. Good street scene with lots going on, dodging and burning some areas would improve composition. Image 27. Streetwise. By Julie Holbush-Maund. Good subject, good composition, nice angle, good image and mono processing. But more an observed portrait or even posed than a naturalistic street scene. Differing opinions on whether there are any distracting elements. Some say none. Others suggest that it should be cropped in closer to avoid sky distraction and that the angle of the building behind is distracting. Image 43. Finished 12th, scored 19.24. Rendezvous. By Phil Malin. Romantic. And makes you think. Leaves you asking many questions. Are they together or having an affair? What are they talking about? Great image, great story, great picture for travel brochure, but does have significant staged look to it. Great use of black and white. Image has atmosphere and intrigue. Sharp. Good expressions on the subjects. Shame building cut in half by window frame. Possibly crop out some of the opaque screen at the bottom would bring faces towards the third. Cropped too tight for a street picture in my opinion. Perhaps the guy's face could have been lightened a bit. Finished 11th, scored 19.67. Image 22. Proud. By L. Sims. Says what it is. And has a colorful main character who is displaying everything about the title. It tells a story and the central character is well framed by the others in the parade. Also the vignette helps to concentrate the eye on the main subject. Great image, love the colors and atmosphere captured. Good expressions. Some felt the vignette too heavy and suggested crop instead, but to crop would remove the parade and context. Controversial being street, but great image to color pop. Finished 10th, scored 19.71. Image 55. Sydney Flinders Street Railway Station. By Julie Holberg-Maund. First, several people think Flinders Station is in Melbourne and not Sydney. After a quick bit of web browsing can confirm this. Good long time exposure and well captured. It has lots of impact, and is eye-catching. But photo of a lit up building in a street more an architectural interest or nighttime shot than a real street scene. Possibly removal of the cable line top right to make a cleaner image. Shame the full station name wasn't in the shot and more people in the scene. Would have cloned or cropped out the yellow car. Finished joint 8th, scored 20.19. Image 42. Lunchtime. By Paul Steens. This was taken in the Haymarket shopping centre in Leicester. He had the camera hanging by his side resting on the camera bag. Was controlling the camera using his phone so no one was aware he was taking photos. Seeing the image on my phone, slightly adjusted the camera position with lower arm to compose. Focus and exposure were adjusted using the phone. The lens was at its widest at 24mm but struggled to get everything in. A wider lens would have been very useful. Wasn't sure what to title the image. One option was to call it Strangers Don't Talk, but decided to let the viewer come up with their own story. Did clone out some elements and blurred the background a little and also did some dodging and burning. Loved this subject, the composition and everything about it. Had nice contrast of cultures and the background is nicely blurred. Girl is well framed but would have been better if her right arm had not been partially covered. Good image spoiled by the people on the far right. Great image, good depth of field, shame that the Asian gentleman is out of focus. Suits a tight crop but possibly too much at the base. Catches the mood well. Neatly taken from low angle. Background well blurred but a bit bright compared to foreground. Image 30 also joint 8th, scoring 20.19. Tightrope. By James Bottrill. I like the composition and it has a good story with great expressions on the tug-of-war men. You're left wondering what happened, so a good image. Good use of black and white. Image is balanced between the performer and the rope pullers but would like to have had more context. Dislike vignette, more of a people picture and cropped or composed a little too tight. I would have moved position to angle the shot from the other direction. Image 50. Finished 7th, scored 20.62. St. Ives Mermaid sets up the deli. By Alan Sims. Excellent image with a great subject and good impact. Lots of interest, well shot. I like the way the strong colors have been handled. Nice environmental portrait. Full of interest. The shop is well framed, if a little tight like cropped. Plenty of different colors. Don't get the title. Colorful picture but no emotion. Finished 6th, scored 20.67. Image 20. Fun in the Township. By Debbie Lowe. This is an excellent street picture with a strong story which is made better by the use of monochrome. It has depth on the left leading you to the moving children with well captured expressions and possibly an accompanying adult. Conveys children innocence and joy in contrast to the poverty of the African township. The unfortunate bit is because there's someone in the distance with a white shirt, you first look at them and only see the children after. Try getting a lower angle, this would work better. The border, although a good idea on projected images, is too thick in this case. Finished 5th, scored 20.76. Image 40. Watching the World Go By. By Ian Waite. Good street picture telling a story with a strong subject. It's well taken and implies the girl walking is being watched. I like the men's facial expressions, which makes for a powerful image, and it's really sharp. Subject suits monochrome. Could possibly have seen a bit more of the women, although it's obvious what the guys are looking at. Maybe even better at a slightly different angle and slightly faster speed. Finished 4th and scored 20.9. Image 44. Sorry, text is quicker. Ken Chesterman. Brilliant. Well spotted. Good street scene. Very clever, grabs attention. Love the man's expression. Interesting shot, corny title. Crop left slightly. Great image, but no contrast to bring the image to life. Need dodging and burning on person and background. Looks a bit set up like he's posing for photographs, but may be wrong, perhaps he has done this before. Although there are some distracting elements. Finishing 3rd and scoring 21.38. Image 12. Walk On By. By Ian Waite. A good monochrome street picture of a homeless person in the rain which tells a story. The blurred figures take you straight to the subject as he is well framed between the moving figures. And conveys movement well and how they are ignoring the homeless person. But is it moral to photograph a homeless people? Some felt it was a bit over-processed, or that a slightly faster shutter speed should have been used to lessen the blurring. Finishing in 2nd place, having scored 22. Image 10. A Rubbish Night by Steve Bexon. Definitely tells a strong story, powerful image of social commentary. Creates emotion. City of Westminster text is good to see in this case as it puts it in context. Rich versus poor. Makes you think. Good monochrome with nice contrast and not overworked. Author may want us to think this is a homeless person, from the title, but is he? Clothes look neat, and boots, and that newish rucksack next to him doesn't give this impression. Or does rucksack belong to the photographer and this is a setup? Bench certainly isn't for sleeping on with those arms. However, irrespective of this, it got me thinking about the image, which is good. Possibly a shallower depth of field would have highlighted the triumph more. Or could a better comp be to move character to middle? Good, but some of the rubbish looks like it's been added. And finally, in 1st place, scoring 22.62. Image 38. Rain Dance by Steve Bexon. Well spotted, excellent street photograph. Clear central interest with the girls interacting, but not dancing. Great subject, with implied movement and great color which is well captured, and like the matching of the colors in the background to the subjects. Person with umbrella moving out of the frame says to me that the rain has passed. A well-composed street action image, but not quite sure that the motion blur works fully. Might be better without He-Man on right and the scaffolding. Pity main subject is out of focus because of the motion blur and has lost a foot behind one of the others.